What's up, guys? Wanted to talk to you real quick about magnesium. Carolyn Dean, MD, subject matter expert on magnesium, says even if your diet is perfect or near perfect and all organic, you're only going to get about a quarter of the magnesium your body actually needs. And it's something that I talk about regularly at the table when I'm adjusting people because I see all types of things that indicate a potential deficiency. One of the biggest things, obviously, being a chiropractor is most people see me when they're in pain and they're in discomfort. So magnesium is definitely my top 3 recommendations because there's a tie-in between magnesium deficiency and taking adequate amounts based on the season we're at and its ability to block the pain gate, meaning to help your body start to calm down pain levels. Okay, so that's a very important one. But there's a lot of other things that we all eat and that we all do, and we don't really take into consideration how that might deplete our magnesium levels. A lot of us are also chasing various aspects of things. For example, I'll be talking to someone and they might be taking something to support natural, healthy testosterone levels. And other people are constantly living on electrolyte replacements. So they're constantly throwing those into their body. Some people are taking things to affect their mood and their behavior. So a lot of times we get conditioned, is what I'm saying, to taking end products or close to near end products. And we're not thinking of the precursors and things that we could take that are definitely less expensive and sometimes a lot healthier for the body because they don't throw the body out of balance. And if they did, maybe at maximum it's a little diarrhea or something like that, but it's nothing major. So magnesium's a precursor to almost every single thing I probably just mentioned to you, and that's really what I want to drive home is this point of how powerful magnesium is. And if you're using it, great. Maybe you're underutilizing it so you can step it up a little bit more. And if you're overutilizing it, well, you're probably watching me on the toilet right now. So either way, let's get to it. There's a couple of key things that I want you to know. One is, you might be thinking this already, is, well, Zev, my diet's perfect, so I probably have my magnesium already dialed in. But like I said, Carolyn Dean, MD and subject matter expert, says that you probably are wrong. Now, a lot of magnesium is going to be found in things like your grains, your nuts, your green leafy vegetables. And even then, you probably couldn't consume enough to flood your body with enough magnesium based on where you're at or what season of life you're at. So we want to start with industrial farming because that's really where things got depleted in the first place, in case you're wondering, like, well, why isn't my diet enough? And I do consume all of that. Industrial farming has really depleted or devitalized the soil, according to all farmers who really talk out about these types of things. They don't use mineral-rich fertilizer to replenish, so it's like recycling huge amounts and mass volumes of crops on depleted soils, so our food naturally isn't containing what it used to contain. So that's a thing. The other thing, though, about farming is that pesticides, herbicides, and nitrogen fertilizers bind up all the minerals like magnesium, so it doesn't allow our body to utilize it correctly also. So that's a whole nother thing to consider. But there's lots of other things to consider as well. So for example, one of the things I talk about quite often when people ask me, at least, is things like a carnivore diet. Okay, a carnivore diet's already kind of setting us back. We don't have a lot of magnesium-rich foods in that, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I tend to be carnivore. So being aware of that, being mindful of that, I always adjust accordingly. But with that being said, another thing with the carnivore diet, for example, is honey. So honey is advocated for most people to use as long as their body feels well on it, okay, on a diet like that. But honey is 50% fructose. So this is where it can get interesting, not really crazy, but just more food for thought, is fructose depletes magnesium levels, about 56 mgs. And then you have glucose, which is the other half of honey. Fructose, 50% fructose, 50% glucose. Glucose can deplete magnesium levels, according to experts, by about 28 mgs per serving. So you look at a combination of that, even if it left us with 40 to 50 megs per transaction or interaction with honey, that's something we have to adjust for in our own diet. So any carnivore out there watching, know that if you're using honey as much as I use honey, I'm depleting a lot of magnesium throughout the day because I live and love honey. Again, not negative on it. In fact, I lean more towards that. And I feel best on that. But again, you want to be mindful of it. So if you're not a vegan or vegetarian and you're not living on green leafy vegetables, nuts, and things of that nature, then you have to understand where you need to get your magnesium from, and that's why I think supplementation is easiest. Now, of course, there's other things that are loaded with magnesium, cacao being one of them. But again, the amount you'd have to have in your diet on a regular basis is a ton. So just food for thought for you to think about. Another thing is when you're having drinks on weekends. Drinks on weekends deplete our magnesium levels. Alcohol depletes magnesium levels. Sodas, things like sodas, diet and non-diet sodas also deplete magnesium levels. Carbohydrate-rich diets deplete deplete magnesium levels. Smoking cigarettes deplete magnesium levels. Taking things like antacids or proton pump inhibitors, all types of drugs. You could just assume that almost every single medication, that's not my area of expertise, not my wheelhouse at all, but there's tons of information out there about how a lot of big pharma drugs really deplete magnesium levels. And then, of course, you have environmental factors. You have heat, you have the elements, you have sweat, you have stress, you have coffee, you have stimulants, you have all these different things that are contributing to our body leaching and depleting in magnesium. So the point with all of that is, if it's not a dietary thing like me, where maybe I lean more on a carnivore side, even if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you still have to consider all those other variables and see how they influence your magnesium levels. So whether it's closing pain gate, whether it's balancing electrolytes and just feeling more hydrated, whether it's regulating blood pressure, for a lot of you out there maybe trying to find natural ways to reduce your blood pressure, or at least get it balanced, whether it be BP or whether it even be cholesterol, you should really start to Google and research and spend time thinking about, maybe before acting, on how magnesium plays such a vital role in all of these processes. And then look at, like, hey, even if you eat all organic and shop at Whole Foods, even if you take the best supplements in the world, and even if you do all these things and you're checking all these boxes, there's still the potential that you might not be getting enough magnesium in. And that's really the punchline I wanted to make. And I want to let you know, people like Carolyn Dean who've written books on it, they're even talking about it. So it's not just this crazy chiropractor trying to hop on a video and say, hey, I want you to take this. I have no tie into this. I just think people's lives are better when they have something like that dialed in. And because it's so cheap and inexpensive, to me, it's almost like a no-brainer. And how I base my magnesium is, and by the way, I take a liquid magnesium. It's natural, it's from earth, so I'm not really going to create any side effect other than maybe some, like I said, some diarrhea, loose stool if I take too much. But I've been using it for a long, long time, and it's just something I always adjust and fluctuate based on maybe how much honey I'm consuming, if I had alcohol, if I was exercising a lot, if I just put a lot of load and stress on my body. And that's how I suggest you use it as well. Of course, everyone has their baseline. Now, subject matter experts say, hey, look, you could take anywhere between 400 and 600. And then other people I've read have said you could take up to 900. So I think everyone has their own threshold of what their body will even use and tolerate and what they feel best on. And that's for us to kind of explore. I would always err on the side of caution and err on minimal more than maximal, and then kind of build up from there. Anyway, I hope you got value from this. As always, I got your back.